Today, we have the 2025 Nissan Leaf, which admittedly is not my usual content, but I wanted to show it to you for a couple of reasons. One, this is my 2025 Nissan Leaf. I leased it from Fort Collins Nissan just about a month ago. And two, the numbers around this car are quite frankly crazy. And I don't mean range and I don't mean horsepower or things like that. We'll talk about those in a little bit. What I mean by that is the economics around it. I gave them a check for $500 down and will be paying them $80 a month for a car that stickers at $38,000. Now, it wasn't long ago that buying a car even at sticker price was considered a good deal. Imagine over the course of a 2-year lease paying right around $2,100 for the use of a brand new car. I had never seen a deal like that before. Probably once this one's over, you're never going to see a deal like that again. So I had to go take a look, and I got to tell you, I've been very, very impressed with this car. And even as just a car by itself, let alone at the price it is being offered for. So let's take a quick look around and see why this may be the right car for me and maybe the right car for you. Now, this is the SV Plus model, which gets you a little better range than you get in just the standard Leaf. You get a little over 200 miles. If you drive conservatively and don't use the climate control and things like that, you can probably squeak out 230, maybe 240 miles on a charge. So maybe not the best thing for a road trip, but fantastic commuter car. Even the most ardent drivers during the day are going to find it hard to drive over 200 miles in a single day around town, and so that's where this car really shines. And the other thing I can tell you about it is that it's blue. And I say that because even though Fort Collins Nissan had over 100 of these on the lot at the time we went to go look, the only real choice you had was what color it was. They're all spec'd identically the same features, same options, same everything. You can get blue, and there was one option, which was whether or not you wanted a body colored or a black roof. I think that's about it. So what you see in this car is what you're going to see if you drive down to that lot, and I imagine it's the same at pretty much all Nissan dealers. Whatever factory Nissan has churning these things out, they don't seem to be making them in any kind of real variety. You get what you get, and you get to pick your color, and we liked blue. Now, this is the second generation of the Nissan Leaf, and I think it looks nice and is a decent improvement, especially over the first generation. And it is a 4-door hatchback, and so you get all your 4-door hatchbacky things. Not only that, because it's a pure electric car, it's packaged really, really well. There's a lot of things they don't have to find space for, like a gas tank or a transmission or anything like that. So even though on the outside it's a rather small car, making it easy to commute and easy to park with, inside is actually fairly roomy. The hatchback opens easy and you get a lot of storage space, especially down in deep, which can be great for like groceries and things like that. And the rear seat space is more than adequate for adults as well as kids. I don't know that you'd regularly want to put 5 passengers in it. You do have that option if you want to, but certainly 4 adults will fit just fine. And if you're talking about putting kids in tow, they're going to be more than able to enjoy the backseat of this car. Now, I happen to think the Leaf is a nice looking car on the outside, but it is at the end of the day an economy car, and where that really starts to show is in the interior. It's actually fairly nice in here, but it does show its economy car roots in things like, you get a power driver's seat, but not a power passenger seat. The seats interiors are cloth, not leather. You get heated seats in the front, no heated seats in the back, no cooled seats in the front either, but you do get a heated steering wheel. You get a nice main screen that has Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, but they are wired only, no wireless here. You also get a mostly digital dash. There is an old school analog speedometer for you, but you get a screen in the dash to give you additional information. There are 2 USB charging ports in the front, one of each kind, along with a 12-volt outlet, and charging ports in the back for your rear passengers, which is nice to see. You get built-in navigation, a 360-degree camera, which for parking is lovely. Even a car this small, sometimes you want to cram it into a tight little space. Having that 360-degree camera can really help you do that well. Not only that, but it has the full suite of what we kind of expect today in driver aids. You've got blind spot monitoring, you've got cross traffic alert, you've got automatic braking, you've got adaptive cruise control, which for me is a feature I just cannot live without in a car anymore. You know, being able to let the car regulate the distance between you and the car in front of you, especially in traffic situations or long road trips, is just wonderful as far as I'm concerned. And because this is an electric vehicle, it means it has really, really good regenerative braking. So the regen does most of your braking for you, and if you turn on the e-pedal with this switch right here, I do love that it's a switch right here. In some cars, you have to turn this feature on in a menu somewhere and leave it on. This makes it really easy to turn it on or off depending on your driver preference, but e-pedal is basically one pedal driving. When you let off the gas pedal, the regenerative braking kicks in at kind of its maximum level to slow you down. In fact, it will turn on the rear brake lights so people behind you know that you are basically braking at that point. It takes a little getting used to. I've heard it, called similar to like driving a golf cart, and I suppose that's fair. But for in-city driving, but especially in traffic, bumper-to-bumper traffic, being able to maintain your distance and your speed and drive the car with only a single pedal is actually a really nice thing to have. You would not think moving your foot between the accelerator and the gas is all that much work until you end up in bumper-to-bumper traffic and you're doing it all the time. Being relieved of that and just being able to drive it with one foot, it's actually kind of nice. And so having it right here on your thing to turn on whenever you want is a wonderful feature to have. Otherwise, in here, you've got the kind of stuff you would expect to find. You've got some adequate cup holders, you've got a parking brake, you've got a dedicated camera button on your infotainment system, so you can bring up the camera when you want to use it. So if you're pulling into a parking spot, you can do that as well. And otherwise, it's a pretty comfortable place to be. All right, since this is an electric car, you do have to charge it. And that's kind of a good news, bad news situation in this particular vehicle. I do like the placement of the charge port. It's front and center at the front of the car. So if you're using a public charging station, those are often traditional parking spaces with the charger in front. So you don't have to worry about like backing into the space or anything like that. You can just park normal and plug in your car. You do, of course, get a charger that's designed to plug into a 220 volt outlet in your house. To charge at home. So hopefully you've got one of those available to you. It's a similar plug that you would use on like an electric dryer. If not, there might be a visit from an electrician in your future to make sure that you can have access to one, because with that charging, you are looking at 7 to 8 hours to charge this car's 60 kilowatt battery. You can technically do it on a standard household outlet, but now you're talking something more like 30 hours to completely charge the car. So that's not something you're going to want to do likely on a regular basis. Now, there are two different charge port options up front, which is good. The bad is neither of them is the Tesla charger. Tesla chargers are becoming the standard in the United States. Every major automobile manufacturer has announced that they are switching to or already has switched to that charger. That's really good news that we're finally getting a standard, because there's been 3 or 4 different competing ones. But that's actually going to come on the next generation Nissan Leaf coming out in 2026. More on that one in a second. What you have here is if you want to do DC rapid charging, the kind of charging where you can pull up to a station and get like 80% of your battery life in just like 20 minutes or so, you're going to need the Chamado standard. I don't know, I'll spell it out down here. That was a standard that's kind of popular in Europe, and also had some popularity in Japan, which Nissan's a Japanese company, so that makes some sense, but didn't catch on as well here. Now, you can find public charging stations that use that standard and have that standard available, and no doubt there'll eventually be some adapters that are offered as well, but just know it might be a little more troublesome. You might want to look at where if you're planning to use public charging stations, look to see what they have. Now, not a lot of cars also came out with that standard, so if you can find one, chances are it won't be used unless it's being used by somebody else who happened to get a screaming deal on a Nissan Leaf. All right, so let's talk finances one last time. Like I told you at the beginning, $500 down and $80 a month, or $2,100-ish over the life of the 2-year lease. Now, that is assuming a 10,000 mile usage every year, so 20,000 miles over that 2 years. If you go over that, you're going to pay a fee. I think it's like 10 cents a mile, which can add up depending on how much commuting you are doing. And we will certainly go over our 10,000 miles, giving the commuting duty that this car is doing. So we have kind of factored that into our expectation around the price, is that we're probably going to have to write a check for those additional miles when we turn we turn this car back in, if we turn this car back in. And therein lies a question. So between now, spring of 2025, and when this car comes off lease, spring of 2027, a whole new Leaf will already be on the market. And that Leaf is purported to have better styling. I think this one looks great. That one looks great too, at least in the pictures that we have seen. They are switching to the Tesla plug, which is going to be a great thing for a lot of folks, because that is definitely the most available charging infrastructure out there. And they're claiming that they're going to get up to 300 miles of range in at least one in their long range configuration, which again is a good bit more than the 200-ish or so in this one. Now, when a new generation, a new model of a car comes out, typically that depresses the price of the used cars from the previous model, because people want the newest stuff. And in fact, electrical vehicles on the whole have not really kept their resale value very well. And most dealers will even tell you this. That's one of the reasons they encourage you to lease. When we signed our agreement on this one, we are able at the end of our lease to buy it for about $20,000. That means we will be $23,000 all in on a car with a sticker price of 38 grand. That is not a bad deal all on its own. However, my guess is going to be that when this car comes off lease in a couple of years, there are countless, thousands, tens of thousands of other Nissan Leafs and people who got the same deal that I did, and their cars are also going to come off lease at the same time. So I'm going to be really interested to see what sort of incentives Nissan is offering at that point for those of us who have these cars to perhaps just keep them. Because while they can't charge me any more than they told me the payoff would be at the end of the 2 years, they can certainly accept less if they don't want their used lots flooded with hundreds, if not thousands, of Nissan Leafs. Now, no guarantee what it is they're going to do, but I wouldn't be surprised if there aren't some very favorable terms being offered to leasees in a couple of years, when so many of these are in the pipeline to return and the brand new car is out, all of which is going to drive the used prices of these cars down. So driving the Nissan Leaf. Well, if you haven't had an electric car before, I imagine this is a great introduction to them, because it drives like a car. I mean, it is at the end of the day a 4-door hatchback that's going to do all of the things you expect a 4-door hatchback to do, and it's got a steering wheel, and it's got buttons that you expect to see, and it's not this radical departure from what most of us know a car to be. It still has windshield wiper stalks and all of that stuff that Tesla saw fit to get rid of in their car, but is very, very familiar to most of us, you will find here. So the driving experience is very similar to any car, really, with the exception of this is electric. Now, being electric cars are possible to do some pretty impressive feats from a performance perspective. There's a lot of pure performance EVs out there now. This is not one of them. This is an economy commuter car. That said, because what power it does have is always available, right? From basically the minute you press the pedal, you have all the power and all of the torque. It's quite peppy, in fact. And the driving dynamic, because the weight is all low, because most of the weight is the battery, and that's low, is actually fairly good. Also means it's pretty good in snow. We did have a snowstorm in the time that we owned this already, because Colorado, and it did a great job because it's a little heavier because of the batteries than a car its size you might expect to be. But again, all the weight's down low, so it was felt fairly sure-footed even in snowy, slick conditions. So if you are worried about the electric part of electric car, if you have not had one before, we have not owned one before, and I will say transitioning to this was basically not a problem, because everything works the way that you expect it to, except instead of going to the gas station, you plug it in, and if you choose to use the e-pedal, you can do the one-pedal driving. So on the whole, I think this is a very, very adequate car with a reasonable amount of driving dynamics for those of us who care about things like that. And for the price, even if you can't quite get the same deal that I got, even a slightly more expensive deal, I would say this car is certainly worth it, because it definitely feels like a $38,000, $40,000 car. Now, today, the average new car price is about $50,000, so we're on the cheaper end of the spectrum. But since I got it for not anywhere near that 38 grand, I feel really good about it. So I would say if you are curious, go test drive one. The worst case is you spend an afternoon driving something and you decide maybe you're not interested and you walk away. I thought the people at Fort Collins Nissan, if you're in the northern Colorado area, did a good job. I didn't feel like they were trying to pressure me into something. We actually drove a couple of different cars while we were there, and really felt that the deals that they were offering, both on the lease, but also there was another car we looked at that we might have purchased, was more than fair. No idea how long the incentives are going to last. There's state and federal and Nissan's own incentives that are bringing the price of these cars down. So if you are interested in it at all, I would suggest go soon. I have seen on my Facebook feed, because Facebook is always watching, similar deals on some small electrics from Hyundai and Kia as well. Nothing quite like $80 a month, but those deals exist out there also if you're interested. All right, well, thank you for tuning into this kind of lightly different video on my channel. Please, if you go to Fort Collins Kia or Nissan, sorry, if you go there, let them know that you watched this video and I sent you. I don't have a deal with them or anything like that, but you never know. Maybe they decide to help a brother out. We'll see. All right, and until I see you again, have a great day.